I guess we're finally doing this. My name is Ghalib Hassan. I am a founder of a business slash agency called Baghi, named after my late father. I help founders on LinkedIn leverage their founder brand to land more opportunities for themselves and their businesses. But let me give you a bit of a backstory to understand where I come from, how I got to this stage, and what I do now in order to reach my goals as a professional and on a personal level as well. So it all started with well, in 2013, I decided to go for a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I started. A year later, in 2014, I absolutely hated it. So I called my mom and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got a call from my dad afterward and he said, you know what? As long as you do your best, you're going to be fine. And there was this quote that he always used to say. It roughly translates in English to, as long as you have a head on your shoulders, there will be many opportunities for you. And that's the angle that I took with it. I finished it hardly. I had a terrible GPA towards the end, but I graduated. After a year, again from 2013 to 2017, I finished the degree, and then till 2018, towards the end of it, I tried to find a job. I couldn't. I was in Pakistan, by the way. I am from Pakistan, for those of you who don't know. I couldn't find a job, so I applied for a master's degree, again, unfortunately, in engineering to Istanbul. Now, I went there with the mindset of, I know it's engineering. I don't like it. I don't want to pursue a career in it. But at the same time, this was the easiest way out for me out of Pakistan to Istanbul to make a future for myself. I went there. I spent 5 years there. And towards the end of the degree, I realized now, and you might ask me why 5 years for a master's degree? Well, COVID hit in between and I had to delay a couple of semesters, so that's why. But towards the end of it, I thought to myself, now what? Right now, I'm back to square one. I enjoyed my life here in Istanbul. It was fun. I made a lot of friends. It was really good. But at the same time, I did not know what I was going to do with my future because I knew engineering wasn't for me. I was never going to enjoy it as a passion. But luckily for me, while I was in Istanbul, towards the last 2 years of it, this was from 2020 to 2022, I volunteered in the beginning as a marketing assistant in this international student office of my university. It was called Bahçeşehir University. And there I made good relationships. Eventually they got me on as a part-time marketing assistant, paid. So I was getting paid money for it. So I was able to afford my stay in Istanbul because I had no proper job. And with the support of my family as well, and that salary from that assistant marketing job, that was enough for me to stay there. But towards the end of it, I realized, okay, now the degree is coming to an end. I'm going back to Pakistan. I have no choice. What do I do now? So then I had a choice to make, right? Towards the end of it. I could try to stay in Istanbul somehow, try to find a job or anything, or I could go back to my family in Pakistan and try to design a life for myself. In order to do that, I stumbled upon LinkedIn. I was like, you know what? Engineering is not for me, but their blockchain was like the hottest topic those days. And I thought if I could become a blockchain security engineer, this was a job role that I kind of stumbled upon somewhere. I was like, you know what? This could be nice. So I thought if I could become a blockchain security engineer, I could change my life around, right? I thought it could be interesting. I could be definitely more interested in this as opposed to being an electrical engineer because it was never for me. But while I was doing this, I created my profile on LinkedIn. Actually, it was on LinkedIn already, but I never really used it because I thought that everybody only used it to find a job. I had no luck, so I just kept it in the shelf, you could say. So I tried to find the job. I couldn't, but at the same time, I thought they offer free LinkedIn courses through their platform called LinkedIn Learning. So I thought to myself, I could create my new career, you could say, by doing free courses on blockchain security and then learn something and then try to somehow pitch myself to somebody to take me on board as an intern or anything just so that I can learn how this stuff actually works. So when I started those free courses, I realized that people actually create content on LinkedIn, which was a concept that was entirely new to me. So I thought, what if I start documenting my journey as well and try to find a job, right? Because remember when I said that I knew that I had to go back to Pakistan and design a life that I actually was comfortable with? That's why I wanted to become a blockchain security engineer. a part of that was a career change, right? So I thought, what if I show people that I'm coachable, I can do free courses, I can learn, and then I create content off the back of it to document my journey. Somebody might be interested in me and they could potentially offer me a remote job, which will allow me to go back to my home country, stay with my family, and design a life that I want, right? I could work, I could be with my family, and at the same time, I could change careers so I don't have to be stuck to engineering. So I started creating content. I started creating content while I was doing blockchain courses, but I realized that blockchain isn't for me either. So how about I do marketing? Because marketing roles are usually, they are remote. You could work from anywhere, and they are generally, I would say, easier to get into as opposed to something so technical as blockchain security. So I started doing free courses on LinkedIn about marketing. At the same time, I started doing free courses slash certifications from Google's Digital Garage platform. At the same time, I started doing courses on HubSpot's platform. HubSpot requires you to have a business. It was like that back then. So I had to fake a website for a business, a website name, etc., so just so I can get in and do the free courses. I did a few marketing courses from there. I did a few from Google Digital Garage so I can get free certificates. At the same time, I was doing them on LinkedIn as well. While all of this was happening, I was also creating content so that I can show other people that, hey, I'm active, my face is out there, I can network with you people so that you could, I'm not gonna lie, I was being selfish, right? Because I wanted somebody to notice me so that they could give me a job and I could work remotely from my home country. So I tried doing that. With time, I gained some momentum. I thought, you know what, this is actually pretty fun. When I look at my content from that era, this was 2022, it was terrible. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, it was terrible. It was cringy, you could say, and I was, you know what am I even doing? But I wanted to do it because for me, I had no other choice. I could either go back to my country, try to find a job again and have absolutely nothing in my hands, or I could try to create a life for myself somehow, right? So I tried doing that, created content, documented my journey while learning everything I could about marketing. One day, I stumbled upon a post from a founder of a personal branding agency based in Berlin. He was looking to hire remote people. So I thought, what if I pitch myself? I had no expectations. Why would somebody reply to me, a guy who was slash is in engineering, has absolutely no idea how marketing works? I have done a few courses, yes, but I have no practical experience. Why would anyone take me? But for me, I had nothing to lose. So I just sent him a DM and I said, hey, I've got no experience in marketing, but I have worked as an assistant marketer in my university's international student office, so I have some sort of experience. At the same time, I'm doing some courses, but the truth is, in person branding, I've got absolutely no experience. But if you could give me a chance, I want to volunteer for you so that I can learn how personal branding works, what kind of people you work with. I could learn from them as well. It would be good exposure for me. I could learn how an agency works. At the same time, since you're a growing startup and you've posted that you need people, you'll get help if you onboard me, right? So I sent that DM. I sent it over to him. Luckily for me, he replied. He got me on board. I was super happy. I was all over, how do you say this? I was over the moon, right? And I thought this is perfect. This could actually lead into something that I thought that I could have, right? I was working towards it. So I got the internship, right? Volunteering slash internship. As I was coming back to Pakistan where all of this was happening, the international office back in Istanbul, they offered me a role as a liaison officer in Pakistan. For me, that was great, right? Because I thought, okay, I know that I'm not going to pursue a career in this, but at the same time, it's not engineering, and it's something different. Plus, it pays the bills, right? Since I'm going back and I was 27 years old, I needed the job. I couldn't just come back home, sit down, and be like, oh, what am I going to do now? I just didn't have that luxury, right? So I started the job. That role, when I came back to my home country, I started as a liaison officer. Unfortunately, the first moment I came back to Pakistan, I had to change cities again and move somewhere else just so that I can work at that job because it was in a different city as opposed to where I was living with my family. When I went there, when I went to the office, I realized, and when I talked to them, the role wasn't finalized yet. So my family dropped me off there and they were still there, and I went to the office. The role wasn't finalized. I did not have a job, but I was so pressurized. I was like, I cannot tell my family about this. So I just told them, yes, I got the role. Everything is good. You guys can go back now. And they did. But bear in mind, I had no job. I only had that unpaid internship. And I was staying with my cousin, trying to figure out how I'm going to afford anything or live my life, you could say. Luckily for me, a week later, they gave me the job. It was finalized. I was so happy. But the moment I got in there, my boss was super toxic. She made my life a living hell. So I knew, okay, even if I never wanted a future, maybe there was a slight chance I could have had a future in that role. But now, since she's so toxic, I know I have to find a way out. So while I was working with this agency as a volunteer, you could say, I pitched myself again on LinkedIn while I was documenting my journey to another agency. This time, this was a person branding agency based out of London. And I pitched myself through networking, and I told the guy, the founder, hey, I would love to cooperate for you guys, right? I want to volunteer, and if you're up to it, I would love to know how you guys work. I have a bit of experience now since I was working with a Berlin agency, and now I could help you guys with copywriting. And luckily for me, the founder, Sam Winsbury, he runs an agency called Kuroko. He said, okay, let's do it. I got on a couple of interviews. It was all good, and they just got me in as an intern, right? Now I had 2 internships, and I had that office job, 9 to 5, but I absolutely hated it. So I made a move. I told the Berlin agency founder, like, hey, I think I've learned enough, and now I feel like I should have a proper contract where I properly get paid, right? Not as a part-time or as an intern, but proper pay. He said I wasn't ready yet. Unfortunately, while this conversation was happening, a few days before this conversation, I had texted the London agency after like working for a month with them. I was like, hey, I feel like my future is going to be with this other agency and I have to quit. And they were like, we understand. And if you ever want to work with us, you can always reach out to us. And I was like, I really appreciate it. I feel like my future is going to be in that Berlin agency. But as things turned out, as the conversation went on with the Berlin agency founder, he said, I'm not ready yet, and he cannot offer me a full-time role at the moment, and he would consider it in the future. So now I had quit from the London agency. The Berlin agency situation was not in a good place. And also, while this was happening, I quit from the 9 to 5 office job that I had because the boss was so toxic. So essentially, there was a moment when I had a 9 to 5 and 2 internships, but now I had no 9 to 5 to pay bills or anything. I had quit from the London agency, and the Berlin agency did not want me in their future plans. So I was in a situation where I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do now. So what I did was basically wait for something to happen. And fortunately for me, I saw a post from the London agency on LinkedIn saying we are in search of a full-time role for a personal brand manager. I texted one of the guys called Jake, from a great guy, by the way, from the London agency. I was like, hey man, I know I quit, but are you guys like seriously hiring for this role? Because if so, I would like to pitch in and throw my hat in the ring. And Jake said, if you want it, it could be yours. We could try to set something up. And I was like, you know what, let's do it. So I had a couple of interviews with Sam and Lewis, the COO. After that, 2 interviews later, they offered me the role. I was sitting down in a cafe and I was thinking to myself, this cannot be real. The kind of money that they were offering was so new to me and it was so big to me that I just did not know if it was even real, right? So the moment I still have the text messages on WhatsApp, by the way, the moment I got the role at Kuroko as a personal brand manager, full-time with pay, I texted the founder from the Berlin agency and said, I'm quitting because I found a role and now I feel like my future is there, luckily for me, by the way. So I quit, right? And then a week or so later, I joined the London agency. While all of this happened, I moved back home instead of the new city that I was in for the 9 to 5 job. And I told my family I have a job now that allows me to be remote. So yeah, I'm going to be home now. They were super happy. I was happy. And, but the problem was, since it was so new to me, this remote role and the salary, that until the first salary hit, I had absolutely no belief that this thing was actually real. I was finding it hard to believe. So when the salary came after a month of working with them, my perspective and my life changed. Now I knew that this was real. I could actually make a career by being remote, and I could try to do great things while being my family. This was a game changer. This was amazing. So fast forward, I spent 2 years with the London agency as a personal brand manager. Then eventually I got promoted to account manager. But there came a point where I thought, okay, I've been with them for 2 years. It's great. The culture is amazing. I enjoy being here, but I feel like I need a new challenge in my life. So I tried finding another opportunity for myself. This was happening while I was at Kurogo as an account manager. I pitched myself to another agency. This time they were based in Dubai, but still remote. I pitched myself to the founders, to the co-founders. Actually, we had a month or two worth of interviews and sample projects, paid, by the way, just so that they could see that I could fit into their culture and that I could be a employee there, you could say. Luckily for me, everything worked out great. I did everything I could for them, and they offered me a role of a content and strategy manager. This was something that I feel like I worked my whole short marketing career for, right? A managerial role at a credible startup / scale up in Dubai. Everything's great. It's remote, and it has the potential of every now and then like traveling to the UAE. So I was happy, super happy. But 2 months into that role, after I quit Kurogo and joined this new agency in Dubai, I realized that I was doing all of this for the wrong reasons. Because the money was great, but the problem is once you realize that now you need something more than just money, you eventually figure it out. You're like, maybe I was doing all of this for the wrong reasons. Maybe money isn't what I'm looking for, but I'm actually looking for something that does not make me feel like I have to wake up every single morning dreading starting to work. Because this latest agency that I joined, I was not at home. I tried my best, but things it did not work out, right? So 2 months later, with this Dubai agency, I quit. A lot of people told me that that was a bad decision, including my family. But I knew that I just couldn't do it anymore because I was doing it for the money, and every single day at work felt like hell. I hated it. I wasn't fitting into the culture. I tried my best. They weren't satisfied. I wasn't satisfied because my heart wasn't in it, right? So I quit. Now I had absolutely no choice but to finally start my own business / agency because I knew I had the experience, right? I worked with an agency from Berlin, from London, and from Dubai. So I had a very diverse experience. I worked with all kinds of clients in B2B and B2C. Now I felt it was the right time to jump into this whole solopreneur business owner thing. So I did. And it's been 3.5 months now. It was great because now I wake up every single morning knowing that it's going to take time. Yes, there's financial pressure. Yes, every day is not as easy as I thought it would be, but I know that I'm working on my own terms, which is something that I did not have the past 2.5, 3 years. So now I'm trying to build a business for myself that allows me two things. First, freedom in terms of finances. If I'm my own business owner, I know that the income potential is much higher as opposed to being an employee. The second thing is it gives me the freedom of time of spending it with my family, not worrying when I go to sleep, when I wake up, everything is on my terms, which is something that now I realize that exactly what I needed in the beginning when I changed careers while I was in Istanbul, right? So now I have it. Every single day, while I'm trying to build this business called Bari, named after my late father, this is something that I feel like is a solution for the long term. And now I know I'm not doing it for the money. It's a funny thing. The other day, my wife told me that I feel like now whatever you're doing, it's not for money. It feels like you're enjoying it so much that you've forgotten about money. And she said it's a bit worrying. And I understand, right? Because money is so important. But I feel like once you start doing things that you actually enjoy, as long as you have the financial runway, money is a byproduct. Eventually it's going to come. And that is the perspective that I have now while I'm trying to run this business. So it's been 3.5 months. Now I'm also starting a podcast called the Founder Lore Podcast. This is where I bring founders. I interview them, sort of. I ask them questions about two things. Number one, their journey so far as founders on a human level, because a lot of the times these founders are scrutinized so heavily for their expertise that people forget that these people are human. So I want to create a podcast which allows these people to become human so that other people, whoever's watching or listening, they can relate to them. That's number one. The second thing is these people that I'm bringing on the podcast, they have prominent founder brands on LinkedIn. These founders have amplified their businesses through their founder brand. And this is a case study. And this is the ideal customer that I want to attract for my business as well, because I, with Baghi, help B2B founders leverage their founder brand so that they can amplify and scale their B2B businesses. So by bringing these people on, I want to make them relatable to the audience. Plus, I want to show people this founder branding thing, this actually works because these people are case studies. And by bringing these people on, other people can be encouraged and they'll know and understand the importance and value of this whole founder branding thing, and they're not going to sleep on it. So I help these founders create content on LinkedIn to leverage their founder brand to scale their businesses. So by bringing these people on, making them relatable, showing them my case studies, I think it's a nice mix of what people need to see and hear, because everything on the internet now feels like stuff that is being repurposed every single day, right? Even podcast. So now I want to change that through my podcast called the Founder Lore Podcast. So these people, I've already had about 3 episodes recorded. I have a few in the pipeline. I'm going to be releasing the first episode on YouTube, on Spotify, and I'm going to be documenting, again, I've been documenting my journey on LinkedIn this whole time. I'm going to be documenting that as well on LinkedIn. So next week on Wednesday, 8 a.m. British Standard Time, I'm going to release an episode. And this is going to be a weekly episode thing for the Founder Lore podcast, where I release an episode every single Wednesday of every single week. That way, these people, they're going to be telling their stories. They'll show other people that this founder branding thing works, and they'll be able to teach and inspire other people that, you know what, maybe you should be investing in this as well. So that is what's happening so far. And I, as an individual, plan to document this whole journey for as long as I can. I want this as a long-term sustainable thing, because I feel like I finally found my passion as well, right? In the beginning, I was doing this for the money, but now I feel like I've always been destined to be a content creator or a storyteller or somebody who documents his story or builds in public, because I like being out there. I like it when I am involved with other people's stories as well. And I want other people to take a peek inside my story as well so that we can form trust with each other. I feel like I have a passion for that. So that is why I'm doing all of this. And today onward, I suppose I'm going to be documenting my journey and dedicating serious time to YouTube as well. That is why I'm making this video, by the way. So by doing all of this, I am trying to build a life for myself, a life that allows me freedom in terms of finances and time. At the same time, I hope I can take people along on my journey, and I can document this whole thing so that it can be a case study. In years from now, I can use myself as a case study and look back and realize how far I've come. Because if I can continue doing this for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I feel like sky's the limit. Money, it's a byproduct. It will eventually come. I have really strong belief that this will happen, but I want to enjoy the whole journey, right? And by talking to amazing people, creating a vast network of interesting people, I think my life can change. So yeah, that's my story so far, basically. And I'll be documenting some other parts of it throughout the following few years too, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Spotify. And yeah, I hope you people are, while you're listening to this or watching this, you understand where I'm coming from. And I just hope you're interested. As simple as that. I'll link my Spotify, I will link my YouTube channel or LinkedIn account everywhere I can so that people can follow along. But yeah, whoever has watched so far or listened to this point, thank you for being here. And yeah, it's scary, but let's see what happens. Thank you.